walk us through the optics and the possible outcomes of this gathering.
Hi, Dan. So I suppose let me start with what the diary of the President of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, is likely to look like today. So first up, he will be welcoming his Chinese counterpart, President Xi Jinping, who is in the country for an official state visit. It's the fourth state visit of the Chinese president to South Africa, and of course the second time he has traveled outside of his own country this year. The two are expected to meet over in the Union Buildings, the center of government here in South Africa, over in Pretoria, the capital of the country, where they are expected to discuss the usual matters that are discussed in a state visit, matters around improving bilateral ties and also increasing investment opportunities as well as trade. So you would know that China right now is the largest trade partner and exporter amongst the BRICS grouping. It is, in fact, South Africa's single largest trading partner also. Right now, a lot of the goods that are exported from South Africa to China are raw materials, and South Africa is looking for further conversations as to how to increase a lot more value-added products. So after the two heads of state wrap up those discussions at the Union Buildings this morning, they're expected to jump into the motorcade of the President Cyril Ramaphosa, the luxury motorcade, and try pierce through any traffic that is on the highway to get to where I am right now, where they will meet their other heads of state who are in attendance of the BRICS Summit. Right behind me in that building is where all the action is, of course, expected to take place, where discussions around the BRICS expansion is expected to take place, discussions around further investment opportunities, a just energy transition and what this could possibly look like for BRICS and Africa, and also the opportunities for the BRICS to further expand into the rest of the continent.
And Fifi, just on the topic of expansion, we know that Saudi Arabia wants to join BRICS to perhaps earn some diplomatic leverage and maybe even enhance its access to the emerging markets. How soon before we know if Saudi Arabia or some of the other potential members will be invited to join?
Yeah. So I think, in my view, it actually is significant that conversations around expansion are happening here in South Africa, which was the latest country, of course, to join the BRICS grouping back in 2020. You mentioned Saudi Arabia. Around 40 countries have expressed interest or have actually formally applied to be a part of the BRICS grouping. In terms of timelines, also, it is unexpected that the particular summit this time around is likely to result in any concrete action plans as to who gets to join and who doesn't. Of course, the BRICS are debating the criteria that will be used to determine which countries can actually be a part of the BRICS grouping and which countries can perhaps be affiliates. We do know that the discussions will be complex as a result of divisions within the BRICS themselves as to whether expansion is right at this time or not. China is interested in expanding. It believes that the BRICS should not be an exclusive club, and it's interested in welcoming other emerging markets who have got great economic prospects. India is looking at the push for China to expand with a bit of caution, just cautious and suspect about the power that perhaps China is trying to garner through the expansion, of course, noting the dispute that the two do have on a border post that they share. Russia, of course, needs friends. It is pretty isolated right now given the sanctions as a result of the Ukraine war. Brazil has actually also expressed its welcoming of the expansion, although the President Lula da Silva has said that criteria and rules should be put in place to ensure that that happens. And South Africa, again, the President at a weekend state address actually saying that South Africa also welcomes making the BRICS grouping a lot bigger, but also has the interests of the continent at heart. So going back to the point around timelines, not expected to take place at this particular summit, whereby we'll have a concrete framework around expansion, but certainly further steps forward expected to be made regarding that all-important topic of expanding the grouping.